This is a home-built press that I made for our daughter-in-law. We'll call it the Goodell design linoleum block wood block press. It's made all out of wood. These are Baltic birch plywood platens, 36 millimeter, so an inch and a half each. And the rest of this is Canadian maple, actually Canadian maple flooring that's machined down to take tongue and groove off and that sort of thing and dress it up, but dress it up only slightly, to be honest. It's got some features. Unlike other presses, we're actually using some hinges here, which I'll show you without a block in place first. But you can just pop that down like that, and then if you've got a block in place, press downward like so. We won't do that just yet. There are some adjustable features if you have some thicker types of blocks or thicker materials, such as maybe a canvas bag that you want to press. So I'll show you that in a second. First off, the easiest way to open this is just like so, and tuck this under here. You can have the lever arms actually swing free if you want, but you don't want to have too much weight on this, or it could potentially tip. So this is a better position. It also gives less stress on the hinges. We don't have a linoleum block, so we'll take 3 magazines that are about 3/8, a little bit more than 3/8 of an inch, and just use that for an example of a thickness of the material that this will press. So 3/8 of an inch, pop the press down into place, and put your weight on it. And obviously my weight is probably a little bit more than your average person's. You can obviously put a fair amount of weight for ink transfer, for good pressure for ink transfer to occur. It happens automatically, so you won't need to pay attention to it. But right here you can see that these angle brackets are made to hook in and actually latch underneath this back horizontal member. That brings the upright in, and it also allows transfer of force, transfer of pressure down into the block. Now, one thing I wanted to point out is in all presses, it can be important, and is important actually, to have this member parallel to the upper platen. The upper platen is where your pressure transfer occurs, and if, for example, this is angled this way or this member is angled that way, then you're going to be, your vector forces are different, and so you transfer pressure this way or that way, which changes how ink transfer occurs in onto your paper from the block. So for good ink transfer, you want to have this generally parallel, and you can do that by, in this particular case, if you have a thicker material, a thicker block, for example, then right here you've got pins that pull out, and I won't pull this screw out right here. You can see it wiggling around, but if I undo the bolt on the back, that'll pop right out, and you can take this pin and pop it there to essentially lower this, but that'll leaves you or gives you more depth here between the platens to use some thicker material. Again, maybe you got a canvas bag or something like that that you want to press. So there's another one of these pins over here on the other side that would also have to pop out. These pop in and pop out fairly readily. There we go, and they just automatically kind of stay there. One other thing, you probably will never need to do this, but I built into this these 2 knurled knobs. So if you had something really thick that you wanted to press, you could remove one of these boards, or I guess even both of them, And if you remove both of them, that gives you lots of room there for really thick materials. And in addition to that, on the back side over here, you've got some other knurled knobs. And that allows you to change position of this horizontal bar that takes the pressure essentially. And you can put it up to different holes to give yourself different angles on this. You probably never need to play around with any of these, but if you did, those are options. As is the angle plate right here. You can adjust that if it's ever necessary. Let me just show you with a thicker plate here, thicker linoleum block rather, which we don't have, but let's say, you know, this is totaling something much thicker than an inch at this point. But if you wanted to press something that thick, just for example, what happens, number one, the angle of this is much steeper, but the angle of this, that's the important thing, that's also at too much of an angle probably, unless you wanted to have more pressure on this part of the press than that part of the press. So by changing this angle, you change how ink transfers in the amount of pressure. In addition, and we'll just pop this out again, and you kind of have to have this upright to clear. You're going to get some rubbing against these back uprights. That's perfectly fine. That's the way it's designed to give you some good clearance. So you may want to press more on this side at times if you need to get better transfer on this side of the press, as opposed to pressing more on the back side here to give you more pressure on that side of the press over here. So different ways of playing around with the press to give yourself better or worse, I suppose, ink transfer. So that's really it in a nutshell. The things that I've added is this extra piece right here with just a hand screw that holds it. So catch it right there. And that it's nothing more than a shim, as I say, in between to give yourself a little more ability to press. And I'll throw in a couple of other shims just in case that's ever needed if you've got something really thin or for some reason you've adjusted this upward and need a bit of a filler. To keep a hand on the platen here, or here for that matter, and that just keeps this platen from rising up like this as you pull these down. So it may make a difference with a double print, although I doubt it would. That's whoops, right there in there to pat it on the ground, but I don't know. It's most easily carried, I think, just doing this and setting it down like so. If you want, you can take this a 2x4 and actually apply pressure. You're going to notice the back end lifts up just a little bit, and to correct for something like that, you can just take a rope and pop it on to these knurled knobs in the back, or you can even swing it on over this. Not going to be a perfect solution, I think, to give yourself better transfer. If you're a smaller human being, for example, and can't apply as much weight as I can, but you can press down like this. You're still going to get a little movement of the press, but it's fine, and you don't have to weigh as much as me to get good ink transfer. Leverage is the whole game with a press like this, any type of press like this, and this just allows you an easy way with an old 2x4 to give yourself a little bit more leverage. There are rubber feet on the bottom here, which generally helps to limit the amount of sliding around that you get, but you don't necessarily need those if for some reason you don't want them. Okay, so that's the Goodell design linoleum block press.